Hey, I'm Alicia Newcom, and this is Assembly Guide, your guide to assembling and organizing as we work to make change in our theatrical industry. Hello. Welcome. Thanks for joining me on my first podcast episode. Welcome to Assembly Guide. My name's Alicia Newcom. My pronouns are she, her. I'm a dancer. I'm an associate choreographer. I'm a human, an artist. Right now, I'm currently working on a Broadway production contract, and I'm based out of New York City, where I live with my husband, who is also an artist, a photographer, an artist mindset coach, and an all-around awesome human, but I'm biased. I want to tell you a little bit about what Assembly Guide is today. I think we're not a perfect fit for everyone and everything. There's no way for us to be that. And honestly, the world is a cooler place because of all of our different interests and passions and curiosities. So today I hope to tell you a little bit about what Assembly Guide is and what I want it to be, so you can see if this is a fit for you. That way you can either stay tuned or spend your time elsewhere, but just want to get clear on what this podcast is and what I hope this space to be. So as I said, this is Assembly Guide, your guide to assembling and organizing as we work to make change in our theatrical industry. You don't have to be directly involved in the theatrical industry to listen to this podcast. I am a performer myself. I hope this space to be one that performers, all of our designers, crew, hair, makeup, wardrobe, anyone who might be involved in theatrical spaces is interested in, but it's also a space for audience members, for people who like theatrical arts and have more curiosity in this space. So everyone is welcome here if this is something you're interested in. But what I want this to be is a space where we're having conversations about ways that we can change our theatrical industry for the better. And what does that mean to me? I want change towards a more humane theatrical space and a more humane world. I want spaces where everyone's humanity is seen and respected. That's super important to me. That's what I'm most passionate about. And that's why I made this podcast. There's going to be some solo episodes where I talk about things that I've discovered as I've begun to step into spaces where I use my voice towards advocating for change in that direction, about lessons I've learned along the way, the ways I choose to show up, and conscious choices I'm making as I work towards hopefully making spaces better and more humane. And there's also going to be some interview episodes where I interview guests, different people involved in our theatrical industry or the arts, about what they're passionate about the ways they want to see our theatrical industry change, and why they're passionate about that. I want to share their stories. I want to hear ways that we can all get connected, that we can support their work and each other's work, and that we can assemble and organize to actually create change in the direction of a more humane theatrical world. So that's a little bit about what this podcast is. As you heard, I'm going to have some missteps in my speaking. I'm going to make mistakes. I think in the path towards change, it's super important that we are able to make mistakes, that we don't expect ourselves to be perfect. Perfectionism is absolutely an enemy, like a stumbling block on the path towards change. I think it creates fear and prevents us from moving forward. We are absolutely going to make mistakes. That's inevitable. And it's actually important to acknowledge and own that if we want to show up with courage and show up with bravery in working towards change in any capacity. But especially towards change towards a more humane world and theatrical world. And so I am going to absolutely make mistakes. I don't want to spend hours editing I know that that's going to prevent me from showing up at my mic and creating episodes and sharing people's stories and people's passions with you all, with my audience. So I'm going to keep this relatively unpolished. And I hope you'll have grace and patience for me with that. I'm going to practice grace and patience for myself and others, as I think we all should, again, as we work towards change. We're going to make mistakes. We have to hold ourselves accountable for those mistakes. I'm going to do my best to see and recognize everyone's humanity, including holding myself accountable and owning when I mess up and apologizing for that and reflecting and moving forward differently. And I'm going to practice the same grace and compassion for other people. I think that's an absolutely necessary part of all of this and conversations about change. But on a very small level, I'm going to have patience for myself when there are mistakes in speaking and in editing and in the many sounds you might hear as I record this from my New York apartment. There might be noise, there might be apartment background noise, sirens, who knows? We'll find out, but I'm recording live here in New York. So thank you for your patience with that. This idea kind of came to me because I have a lot of really cool, awesome friends who I have conversations with all the time. About the different types of change we want to see in the world and in our theatrical industry. I have friends who are really passionate about different areas of change in our industry, and I thought I would love to share their stories, and because they're very inspiring to me, and I hope that they will be inspiring to you, my audience. And then as we listen to other people's stories and passions, I think we often find things we're super passionate about and we go, oh my gosh, now I know who I can connect with if I want to make change in this direction. There is power in numbers and power in organizing. So if I can share people's stories and we can connect and we can strengthen our numbers as we work towards these different types of changes in our industry, I think the more successful we're going to be. That's also why I stumbled on the name Assembly Guide. I thought of an assembly guide, a manual as you're building things. It's a very basic instructional guide. And that's kind of what this is. I'm relatively new to this. I've been speaking about change in theatrical spaces and in the world on my social media, in my writing for a few years now. And only recently have I begun to speak about that with my actual voice. And in the spaces that I am in, practicing speaking on that and advocating for that. And so this is kind of a basic guide. I'm going to speak about my experience, but I'm relatively new to this, and I hope that we can all learn together as we practice this in real time, how to better assemblize and better organize so that we can be more effective in creating change. And my hope from all of this is just that you will listen to these episodes and you'll feel inspired from the people's voices and stories that you might hear and from their passions, and that you'll also feel empowered. What's most important to me as someone who hopes to lead spaces, and I think I've owned more that I do at times, is that everyone within that space knows that they have the potential to lead. We are all leaders. I know that idea felt very scary to me when I first heard it, but I now know that it's absolutely true. Everyone has such unique skills and talents and passions and ways that you approach thinking and speaking and creating that are all unique and individual. And everyone has something unique to offer, not only our industry, but the world. And I hope that you will feel empowered to be curious about what that is for yourself, to be curious about what you want to see change and the unique way that you can lead in making that change. Because you totally can, and I am here to cheer you on as you do that. So, yeah. And finally, last but not least, there is, I know I already spoke on this, but I want to go into a little more detail. There is totally power in organizing. I know sometimes when the world or our industry is not necessarily the way that we want it to be, it can feel very defeating. I understand that it's important to feel your feelings and let them be what they are. And at the same time, I want us to know that there is power in rallying together, in organizing, in brainstorming together and creating solutions forward. I have run from organizing every time that I've stumbled into thinking about it's something that I'm doing. It feels scary to me, but recently I've begun to own that that is something I actually am good at and that I am passionate about. And I have seen it work in practice. I will go into more detail, but I have seen many examples of how power in numbers, of bonding together and brainstorming intentional ways forward, and having each other's backs results in actual change. So that's my goal, that we can all assemble and organize to better create the change that we want to see in our industry and world. So that is Assembly Guide. I can't wait to see what this becomes. We are doing this on the fly. I hope you will join me again. And I can't wait to keep exploring change with you all. Thank you for spending your time with me and listening today. And I hope to see you in the next episode. Have a good day. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining me for my first episode. Wow. I really can't put into words how much it means to me that you spent your time with me today. Thank you. Thanks for listening. If this is interesting to you and you want to connect with me more, follow me at Assembly Guide on Instagram. You can also reach out to me directly at assemblyguidepodcast@gmail.com. If you have thoughts, ideas, things you'd like to hear on future episodes, or maybe people you want to shout out who are doing awesome work and advocating for more humane theatrical spaces, who you maybe think I should interview, let me know. I would really love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you enjoyed this, I'd really appreciate it if you could follow, rate, and share my podcast on your podcast listening platform, whatever that is for you, and share this with friends. It would really mean a lot to me. And because I believe in crediting artists, I want to shout out my music is by Purple Planet Music, and my awesome podcast logo that I'm so excited about was designed by my dear friend Aidan Wharton, who I definitely will be having on this podcast because he's also an amazing artist who does a lot with advocacy. Thanks, Aidan. Thanks, everyone, for listening, and please tune in next time. Let's make change.